They are a lucrative prize for whoever controls them. That's why rival militias continue to fight for these Libyan oil ports at Es-Sidr and Ras Lanuf. And currently the rebel Benghazi Defence Brigades have the upper hand. They have handed over control to the Petroleum Facilities Guard, which operates under the UN-backed GNA.
Oil and fuel belong to all Libyans and are sovereign resources. The Petroleum Facilities Guard reassures all companies working with the National Oil Corporation and partners that production and export will continue without interruption.
The brigade's success has come at the expense of the Libyan National Army, or LNA, loyal to Khalifa Haftar. Haftar is a former Libyan army officer who has waged a campaign against rebel factions since the civil war broke out in 2011. He had largely been successful until now. The LNA says it has now launched airstrikes against the Benghazi brigades, but the brigades say they are well prepared.
Haftar's Air Force, it's no longer influential because the BDB has air defense as well, which faces off against these planes. And they've brought down a plane before, and therefore Haftar's pilots are scared, so they fly at high altitudes.
But Haftar is unlikely to back down. That means the ports will remain shut, stopping production and further stifling an economy that relies heavily on oil. The fighting also raises the prospect of a wider conflict, just as ordinary Libyans had begun to hope the worst was behind them. Shoaib Hassan, the Newsmakers.
To discuss this further, I'm joined by El-Gamaty from London. He is a member of the Libyan Political Dialogue Group and a former UK coordinator for the National Transitional Council of Libya. And from Tunis, Mohammed Al-Jar. He is a Libya analyst and a non-resident fellow with the Atlantic Council. Thanks both so much for joining us on the Newsmakers. El-Gamaty, let me start with you. The Libyan National Army has, for the time being at least, been pushed out of control of Libya's oil fields. Petroleum Facilities Guard is now in control under the Government of National Accord. Do you think that is what's best for the Libyan people at this point?
No, I don't think that's the ideal situation. I think what is best and what's in the national interest of all Libyans and what should be the case is that all these national assets should be out of the conflict. They should not be used by either side of the conflict in Libya as a bargaining chip or as a card to hold in order to force their point of view or their position. I think it's really a shame that now oil and oil installations, which are so vital to the Libyan people and to the Libyan economy. The oil is the backbone of the Libyan economy and is the only source of income for Libyans. It is a shame now it's being used as a card by either side. When Haftar forces rolled into these installations, the oil crescents, back in September, everybody thought that gave Haftar an upper hand. It strengthened him politically, and he became so arrogant, and he wouldn't even talk or enter into a dialogue with the other side. And now he's being pushed out, and people are seeing that as weakening Haftar's position, and the other side are now stronger. I think either side should not be playing with these vital installations, these vital assets of the Libyan people, and they should be always put under the protection of a neutral force like the petroleum facilities guards or force or others whose allegiance is to the recognized legitimate government and who do not take orders from either side of the conflicting sides.
Okay, Mohammed Al-Jar, would you agree, and is it even possible to keep the resources out of the politics of this conflict?
First of all, let me start by saying there is no neutral force in Libya today. So to claim that there is a neutral force that's ready to protect the Libyan terminals, the Libyan oil facilities, is not accurate and is not correct. So what needs to happen is where I agree with Mr. El-Gamaty is that the Libyan oil installations and all Libyan vital institutions and the Libyan capital, Tripoli, where today there is a lot of fighting happening there, they need to be spared the fighting in the country. There is no doubt about that. But it's important to also look at the history. So let's go back to September 2016. The oil terminals have been closed for more than 2 years. And when the Libyan National Army managed to peacefully, somehow, to take control of these terminals, Libya's oil production bounced to about 700,000 per day. And now that is dropping again because of the attack by the Benghazi Defence Brigades. The other point is, today morning, the Libyan National Army is now conducting another ground offensive to try and capture the oil terminals again. So it is important that these terminals are kept out of any fighting, but it is also important that we do not lose sight of the facts on the ground and not lose sight of the group that has decided to attack the oil terminals just under 2 weeks ago, and what it is made of, and why they attacked now, and who is backing them. All of these are important questions and ones that we need to find a clear answer to,
Okay,
I think.
let me ask both of you then for some clarification. Given the Libyan National Army under Khalifa Haftar has fought against jihadist rebel factions, including the Benghazi Defence Brigade, it would seem they'd be better allied with Western interests. However, that's not the case. How do you reconcile that on the ground? Ghuma, let me start with you.
I think what's important is not whether it reconciles with the Western interest or the Eastern interest. What's important is what reconciles with the Libyan national interest. And either side, whether it's the Haftar forces or whether it's the BDB, the Benghazi Defence Brigades forces, these both forces are parts of the conflict in Libya. They are opposing each other. They are jockeying for territory and for influence and for political strength. And that's why I say both of them should keep away from these vital installations. And there is officially, there is the Petroleum Facilities Guards Force, and it's headed by somebody who's called Idris Abu Hamada. Now, Idris Abu Hamada, he's a local man, and he can actually secure these installations totally and not disrupt the oil export. And by the way, the BDB, the Benghazi Defence Brigades, have announced when they took over these installations from the Haftar forces, they have announced that they want to hand them over, and they have no intention whatsoever to stop the export and the flow of oil. So there is no reason to believe that just because these installations have changed hands from Haftar's forces to BDB forces, then suddenly we will have a stop in the export of oil. That is not yet to materialize or to be proved.
Okay, Mohammed, I could see you shaking your head.
Again, it is not very accurate. It is very dangerous if we try and equate the Libyan National Army with the Benghazi Defence Brigades. That's a very dangerous and crude assumption. We can say, for example, that the forces from the city of Misrata and the government of national accord in Tripoli are part to a conflict. And then we can say that the Eastern Camp and the Libyan National Army is another part to the conflict. But the Benghazi Defence Brigade is a group that is made up of factions. Some of them have clear links, clear and established links to groups like Al-Qaeda. Some of the people who led the attack on the oil terminals less than 2 weeks ago, they are known to have links with groups like Al-Qaeda. Again, with regards to the Western interest or the Western link, the United States has increased its surveillance and its intelligence gathering efforts of the oil crescent after the recent attack. And also they had experts on the ground over the last couple of days to try and establish exactly what is going on. And then today we see an attack by a ground offensive by the Libyan National Army. It's as if the Libyan National Army kind of got a green light that maybe this is the best thing to do, is to try and push these guys out of the oil crescent area, because it's very dangerous to accept that the Benghazi Defence Brigades is an equitable side to the Libyan National Army. They are not. They are a very dangerous group, and they are a group that need to be exposed, and it is very dangerous to say that they are dealing with the government of national accord, or that would raise the questions. Does that mean that the government of national accord is also dealing with these groups that have clear and established links to terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda? If that is the case, then the prospects for dialogue and the prospects for peaceful settlement in Libya become really difficult, if not impossible.
Mohammed, then can I
case.
ask you very quickly, is Russia's alleged involvement then at this point helping or hindering this conflict resolution?
All foreign interference in Libya, including that of the United States, that of Europe, that of Qatar, that of Turkey, UAE, Egypt, all of these are harmful to Libya's interests. And the problem is that each one of these countries or each one of these regional players, they think that by interfering in Libya, they are doing good to Libya. To the contrary, it only means that the other side will come and also start to interfere in the interests of Libya when the reality is that they are interfering in their own interests. And I have no doubt that 2017 will be the year that Russia will become one of the key, if not the key players on the ground on Libya.
Okay, Kuma, I saw that you had a response earlier on. I'll let you go ahead with that before I'd like to move on to another question.
Well, I think it's very important to clarify some basic facts. Haftar's forces, what we call LNA, Libyan National Army, only represent a very small portion of who are actually belonging to the Libyan army in Libya overall. Now, for the last 3 years, almost 3 years, the only war that Haftar has been waging is the war against people in Benghazi, the Benghazi Revolutionary Shura Council, and now the BDB, the Benghazi Defence Brigades. It's very important to clarify so that we don't misrepresent the realities of Libya. Haftar has not been please, this is important. Haftar has not been in a war with Misrata or with the GNA or with any other forces. He has been in a war with people in Benghazi, from Cyrenaica, from Benghazi itself. Now Haftar and others who support him would like to generalize and demonize and classify all of these as Daesh and Qaeda and so on. Obviously, there are Qaeda have been in there. There are Daesh. By the way, Daesh elements have been let out of Benghazi peacefully when they struck a deal with Haftar to leave Benghazi and go to Sirte. So did Daesh from Derna. But we can't say that the BDB are all Qaeda and Daesh. I don't agree with their ideology, but it's unfair. This is how the Haftar propaganda would like to demonize these people, so to show that Haftar is in the right and they are in the wrong. So they are the two conflicting sides, and they are the two who are fighting. And I say both Haftar forces and BDB keep away from the oil installations and from Libyan national resources, and go and carry your fight to the desert or somewhere else.
Okay, complex question then for Mohammed. We only have a minute left. Who at this point is best equipped to lead Libya, and is this oil a blessing or a curse for the country?
Who is best suited to lead Libya? The best solution for Libya is to have a unity consensus government that can actually lead the government. However, I believe that this is difficult to near impossible at the moment. And unfortunately, what seems to be happening now is that ending conflict in Libya can only happen through two means. Either a military victory for one side, and I believe that's extremely difficult to achieve now, or the military exhaustion of all sides. and that will take a long time. And the other fear is that Libya is now entering a new phase where Russia is going to be much more involved in Libya, and then the West and Russia are going to battle each other in Libya, in addition to Syria and to Crimea and other places as well. And I think it is going to be very difficult to see how a political settlement, at least now, can actually work in Libya. It seems to be very difficult and very remote at the moment.
Okay, Mohammed Al-Jar, I'm going to have to let you have the last word. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd like to thank you both so much for joining us on the Newsmakers.